Hello, world class. I hope you've had a fantastic day and have managed to avoid the showers. So we're on chapter 8 today of The Royal Rabbits of London, The Great Diamond Chase. Beneath the Grand Burrow, Rappaport, the bald-headed blotchy computer expert rabbit, dressed in a three-piece pinstripe suit and a grubby shirt, which had once been white, was on duty in the lair. He was watching his screens in the security room, rubbing the scurf off his flaky pink head and picking his nose, when he suddenly saw the email from Rat Central. Breathing heavily, he hurried up the tunnels, up to the great hall, then on up the winding staircase towards Nelson's war room. There he is. I think some of us feel a bit like that, surrounded by screens at the moment. Frisbee, the major domo, red-faced and pompous, stopped him with her big staff. "The Generalissimo is in a meeting with the Hopsters, Rappaport. Come back later," she said. "Announce me at once," Rappaport demanded, wiping his sweaty brow with a grubby handkerchief. "This is an emergency." Frisbee huffed crossly, but she banged her staff 3 times against the double doors, opened them, and announced in a high operatic voice, "Rappaport, Generalissimo, apparently it's an emergency." The scruffy paunchy rabbit hopped into the room in a state of high excitement. His glasses had misted up, he had an orange stain on his tie, and he was twitching more than usual. "What have you got for me?" Nelson asked. "Generalissimo, I have just received an email from Rat Central," he said. Nelson raised his eyebrows. "Rat Central?" he repeated in surprise. "It's a photograph of the diamond. Here, I've printed it out for you." He placed it on Nelson's desk. The old buck looked at it, and then he laughed. A deep belly laugh that roused the other rabbits' curiosity and sent them hopping over to his desk to see what was so amusing. Laser and Clooney could see it easily, but little Shiloh was straining until Zeno had to lift him off the ground so that his hind paws dangled in the air. Even Horatio pushed himself up from his comfortable chair and limped across the floor to join them. When Shiloh saw the photograph, he immediately spotted the tiger's face in the glass. He might have been a weak and feeble bunkin, but he was very clever and quick-witted. "Mystery solved," said Clooney with a laugh. "Looks like it wasn't the minx behind the theft after all, but a tiger." Shiloh's ears stood up straight. His niggle had been right. It wasn't the Russians. "Who is this tiger?" he asked as Zeno put him down. "Rappaport," said Nelson. The mangy buck shrugged apologetically. "I've run a facial recognition program, but have come up with nothing," he replied. Belle de Boer studied the photograph carefully. "I bet she's not a white tiger at all, but a yellow one," she trilled. "No tiger is that white." Horatio stepped forward and tapped his walking stick a couple of times on the floor. "That, my friends, is Amura. I'd recognise her face anywhere." The royal rabbit stared at him in surprise. "Are you telling me that you know this tiger?" demanded Zeno. "If I had had the misfortune of knowing her, I would not be standing here now. Tigers like to eat rabbits," Horatio replied. "Who is she?" Nelson asked. "She's a white Siberian tigress and belongs to a very wealthy Russian woman who likes to collect exotic animals. She lives in a very big house in Hampstead called Tiger Towers. It won't be difficult to find. She has Siberian wolves as well, which are very fierce. I would not like to meet them on a dark night." "How do you know about this?" Laser asked curiously. After all, it had been many years since Horatio had been in Moscow. Horatio chuckled, and he looked down at Shiloh and winked. "I know because I had endless hours in the countryside to read. You see, one learns a great deal from reading, as Shiloh will tell you." The little rabbit felt his chest expand with pride. "You read about Amura in books," said Zeno, crinkling his nose, because Zeno rarely read anything. "I read about Amura in a newspaper," Horatio corrected him. "There was one big article about her owner, the Russian billionairess, in the Times. I was intrigued." "Very well," said Nelson. "If she does indeed have the diamond, I suppose it's in Hampstead. But why would the Ratsies want to help us?" "They don't," said Clooney. "Ratsies want to create havoc." "It doesn't make sense," Zeno boomed. "It sure doesn't," agreed Laser. "It's a trap," said Belle de Pau. Nelson rubbed his chin thoughtfully. "If the Ratsies want to create havoc, why not simply inform Minsky the Terrible that Amura has the diamond?" He wondered aloud. "The minks steal it back, the diamond goes to Moscow, and the good relationship between Britain and Russia is put to peril. Paparazzi would love Britain to be furious with Russia. Peace is what he hates the most." "There is only one thing to do," said Belle de Pau, suggested with growing excitement. "We go to Amura's house and find out." "Yes," enthused Zeno, who loved action more than anything. "Just say the word, Generalissimo, and I'll send my thumpers into battle." Shiloh glanced at Horatio, who was deep in thought. His face was serious and worried. The little bunny felt anxiety build in his belly. Nelson nodded. "You're right, Zeno. Even though we don't know the Ratsies' plans, we need to get the diamond back as soon as possible. I want all my thumpers to go to Hampstead Heath at once." Horatio put up a paw, which silenced the room. "I would advise caution, Nelson," he warned. "The Ratsies' plot is sure to be diabolical. We mustn't fall into a trap." "Leave the strategy to me, brother," said Nelson. "It's been years since you were in the Grand Borough, and in much of that time I have stood behind this desk and given the orders." Horatio shook his head. He looked down at Shiloh, who gazed up at him with wide, fearful eyes. Shiloh agreed with his old friend. Something wasn't right at all. Surely the Ratsies would rather the diamond went to the minks than the rabbits. Nelson turned to his hopster rabbits. "Zeno, I need you to surround the property. Clooney, Shiloh, and Laser, I want you to find a way into Amura's mansion and bring back the diamond." "And me?" asked Belle de Pau. "I should go too. No one knows more about diamonds than me." "I want you at the periscopes, Belle de Pau. I need to know everything. Who comes and goes from the palace." "But—" "No discussion, Belle. You are assigned the job you do best, here in the Grand Borough. I cannot have everyone out in the field." Belle de Pau pursed her lips and scowled. Just then, Shiloh's stomach made a loud moaning noise. "Is that niggle or a rumble?" Nelson asked. "A rumble," Shiloh replied, not entirely sure. "As I told you, it's difficult to tell." "Then first you must eat," said Nelson, glancing at the bunkin who was peeping over the side of the desk with large, hungry eyes. "There's no point going into battle on an empty stomach." While they dined on celery soup, parsnip pie and carrot crumble, Horatio whispered in Shiloh's ear, "I sense there's more to this than anyone has imagined." Is it sure to be a trap?" Shiloh asked, feeling a lot better now that his belly was full. "Most likely," the old buck replied. "If the Ratsies have sent the photograph to us, they will most certainly have sent it to Minsky the Terrible as well. Go with your eyes open, Shiloh. If you expect a trap, you can avoid it. You must use what you think are your advantages. Sorry, I'll read that bit again. You must use what you think are your disadvantages to your advantage." Shiloh frowned. You are small. The Hopsters are big and tall. They don't have noses as sensitive as yours, and you are curious and keen to learn, while the Hopsters think they know everything. And remember the most important thing of all I taught you. What's that? Shiloh's ears stood to attention. Life is an adventure. Everything in the world is possible by will and by luck. With a moist carrot and a wet nose and a slice of mad courage, you are braver than you know. It was late afternoon when Clooney, Laser, Shiloh, Zeno and his thumpers took the underground cart to Hampstead Heath, emerging near the Ladies' Pond. As they set off, Shiloh caught a brief whiff of Belle de Paul's exotic perfume, and he hoped she wasn't cross that Nelson had not allowed her to come with them. The wind ruffled Shiloh's fur as the cart rattled swiftly along the railway tracks. As they sped in a northerly direction, his legs began to feel weak, and his ears went droopy, flying out behind him. He didn't want to look scared, but as much as he tried, he could not get his ears to stand up straight. However, he had no desire to stay in the Grand Burrow. He wanted to get the diamond back, because it had been his fault that it had been stolen in the first place, and he still felt sick every time he thought of it. Yet he was terrified. He just hoped that, when the moment came, Horatio was right, and that somehow he'd be braver than he knew. So that's end of chapter 8. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you very soon. Take care. Bye.